architectural statement, but tectonic architecture. Look how it fits the mountain. Look how it fits into nature. And again, just like the Taj Mahal, does it say, look at me? Maybe you think it does. But I would say it says, look at me, but look at the heavens, look at the earth, look at the rivers. And here it's like, look at the mountains, look at the sky. And of course you say, but this is so beautiful, it's so warm, it's so inviting. But it's fitting perfectly into the natural environment. Here we have, of course, the tomb of Rumi in Konya. And as you know, this is pre-Ottoman. This goes back to the Seljuk period. It is a beautiful example of architecture. But the Seljuk architecture is architecture that essentially imitates the Armenian church. And at that time, the Armenians are the significant Christian minority living among Muslims. The Greek Orthodox are also there, but they're in a state of war. And therefore, the Seljuks, when they build this, and most Seljuk architecture, I might be wrong, but it actually imitates Armenian style. And even this dome that is on Rumi's tomb, that is like Armenian. It is, of course, Muslim, and it's their own style, but you can compare. And this, for example, I asked my assistant to get me an Armenian church, and so he came up with this one. But you can see the similarity, can't you? This is an Armenian church. And, so that style of the Seljuk mosque, it is one that is compatible with the Armenian churches. And the Armenians were called the faithful group, the faithful minority in the Ottoman. They were highly respected, and they had very good relations with the Ottomans. And here, of course, you see these great Ottoman mosques, which you will see throughout Turkey and the Ottoman Empire. And there's no question about their beauty. But what are they imitating? What are they consciously imitating? The Greek Orthodox Church, Hagia Sophia, and the Greek Orthodox churches that come out of that tradition. And they did that consciously. And of course, that's not a Greek Orthodox church, and you're not going to mistake it for a Greek Orthodox church. But nevertheless, it respects the sacred tradition of where it's built. And it reflects a different approach to that, a different interpretation of that. And this is Hagia Sophia. And as you know, this was a great Christian church. It is one of the first great Christian churches ever to be built. And this will become the standard which all of the Greek Orthodox churches and the Russian Orthodox churches will follow. And so the Ottomans have that in mind. And what they build will be like Hagia Sophia. This is inside. Here we go quickly to West Africa. We talked about going from east to west. And in the Empire of Mali, which, by the way, was the wealthiest empire in the world in its time, it controlled the gold markets of the world. It had global reach. The soldiers of the Empire of Mali, as you may have heard me say yesterday, wore Persian brocade. And they used seashells for small coin. And the seashells they used came from the Maldive Islands of the Indian Ocean. But they would go to pilgrimage, and they would commission architects to come to build in West Africa. And in one case, the king, Mansa Kankan Musa, he brought back Andalusian architects, and he said, build me mosques. But he said, not Andalusian mosques. I want African mosques. And I want mosques that fit here. And so this is what they came up with. And no doubt they used indigenous traditions and so forth They build from adobe. The mosques are cool in the summer, they're warm in the winter. And this is another example of that. Here you have another picture. And now we're going to end. I've taken a lot of time, haven't I? And okay, we're okay. But here, one of my friends in Canada is a professional weaver, and so I wanted to show you her work. And what she wanted to do was to weave a Canadian prayer rug that puts in it the symbols of the First Nations and the colors of the First Nations. So this is actually what she's doing in that. And so she wanted something which she hoped would be pleasing to the First Nations, the Indians, of Canada, and then also to the Canadians. This is also a Canadian mosque, and it has won awards because of the way that it fits into the landscape. And then also the woodwork in this mosque is woodwork that is based on First Nations. And in fact, the workers who built the mosque are mostly First Nations, American Indians. And they were very happy and very pleased by that. So I think this is a very good precedent. And the Canadians actually have done a number of things like this that I am very supportive of. This is one of my great friends, Azim Ibrahim, and these are Scots. These are Scottish Muslims who speak with Scottish accents, and they're wearing tartans. And I have a tartan, which is the Armstrong clan. I'm very proud of that. That was my great-grandmother's clan. But what clan is that? Is that a McGregor? Is that a Bennett? Is that an Armstrong? Anybody know that clan? Of course, this is Germany, a long way away from Scotland. That's the Muslim clan. And so this is a Muslim tartan authorized by the Scottish Parliament. And the Scottish Parliament has a very good relationship with its Muslims, by the way. And I have a great respect for the Scots because they are very open-minded with the Muslims. And so this tartan was designed, and it's specially authorized. Here's a close-up. Blue represents the Scottish flag. Green represents Islam. The 5 white lines represent the 5 pillars. The 6 gold lines represent the 5 pillars of faith. And the black square represents the Kaaba. So that's beautiful. And I really applaud our brothers and sisters for these kind of steps. And there's so much more that we want to do and that we can do, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And that's the end of the slides. And welcome to Dr. Hiba. I'm happy to see you. So, I think that we can complete what we're talking about in just a few minutes. And I just would like to give you a few quotations. This is a quotation from, and in fact I have a beautiful quotation from Abu Yusuf. Abu Yusuf is, as you know, one of the greatest of the Hanafi scholars, one of the founders of the Hanafi school. And Abu Yusuf understood very well, as did the fuqaha, that much of what became the Prophet's sunnah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was acceptable pre-Islamic custom. And we know this. All of us who study Islamic law, we know that. We know that certain things were pre-Islamic custom and the Prophet accepted them. And that also indicates an openness to cultures. So the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't come to destroy pre-Islamic culture, he came to purify it and to take from it everything that was good. A lot of that being Abrahamic. And so Abu Yusuf understood that the recognition of good local cultural norms falls under the Sunnah. This is Abu Yusuf. That when you go out into other cultures and you see what is good there, and you respect it, and you adopt it, and you can modify it, you can make it your own. That's usually what we do. We try to make it even more beautiful. But that is the Sunnah of the Prophet. And this is the wisdom that our scholars had. As-Sarakhsi, whom you know is one of the great Hanafi legal scholars, As-Sarakhsi emphasized what Abu Yusuf said about culture. And As-Sarakhsi says, whatever is established by sound custom, good custom, is equally well established by sound legal proof. There's no problem here. Whenever you see something that is good, you accept it. And that has the power of Islamic law behind it. As Abu Yusuf said, that's the Sunnah. We take from the good cultures of the people around us. If you wanted to study this further, in the Quran, chapter 7, verse 191, God says, accept from the people what comes naturally, khudh bil'af. He says, take from the people what comes naturally for them, command what is ma'ruf, customarily good, and turn away from the ignorant without responding in kind. Don't respond to the ignorant with ignorance. And this verse, is regarded to be one of the proofs of urf and ada, of the importance of good culture. Ibn Atiyah, who is a great Andalusian scholar, he says that this verse upholds the sanctity of indigenous culture and grants sweeping validity to everything that the human heart regards as sound and beneficial. And he means the sound human heart, the healthy human heart, the enlightened human heart, as long as it is not clearly repudiated in the revealed law. So we don't want to break our principles. We want to keep our principles. But nevertheless, all that goes with that, we accept and we use. And let's take some more quotations. There's a great Maliki judge of Baghdad called Abdul Wahhab al-Baghdadi. He's one of the great legal authorities of the Maliki school. He said, the rejection of cultural usage, the rejection of good culture, has no meaning at all. It's absurd. If you live among Germans and you're German, you have to accept the good things they do. If you reject that, there's no meaning to that. Don't think that's piety. It's not piety. The rejection of cultural usage, we can say good cultural usage, has no meaning at all. To follow sound custom is an obligation. It is a legal obligation. Ash-Shatibi, who is also one of the great jurists of Islamic history, of Granada, he says that to make any judgment contrary to the norms of the established culture is juristic incompetence. Any judge, any mufti who makes decisions that fly in the face of good local culture, he says they are incompetent. They are not worthy of ruling. You have to make judgments that are in harmony with good local customs and conventional usage. And he says that the art of handing down legal judgments is that it must be in harmony with the good cultural norms of the people of that area, because these good cultural norms are always consistent with the maslahah, They are always consistent with, the needs of the people. At-Tasuli, who is another great judge, he says, allowing the people to follow their customs, their usages, and general aspirations in life. And again, he means their good usages. Allowing the people to follow their good customs and usages and general aspirations in life is obligatory. They all are saying this. To hand down rulings in opposition to this is gross deviation and tyranny. And then we could go on and on. But this is very, very important. I think we should conclude here. How much time do we have, please?
We have 30 minutes.
30 minutes. So we try to have questions. I'd just like to say a couple of things briefly. And first of all, we have another maxim in Islamic law. And these maxims are extremely valuable, extremely useful. And it says, al-'ada tabi'atun thaniya, that cultural usage, cultural convention is second nature. What does that mean? This is simply an acknowledgement by the jurists that when people have cultural conventions, those cultural conventions are as deeply instilled in them as their psychological, biological natures. And that means be wise. Because here we also have to emphasize that culture is not necessarily good. And that's why we have to be critical and we have to be wise in the way that we look at culture. And also our cultures that we bring with us from the Muslim world, they are not always healthy. And often they may have things in them that were healthy at one time, in one setting. But as the times change, they cease to be healthy. And for this reason, we have to always keep an eye on culture. We're not naive and just say, well, anything goes. No. But just as we have to accept good cultural norms and build on them, we have to also be careful about bad cultural norms among ourselves and among others. And especially we have to understand that when you want to change cultural norms, this is very difficult to do. You already have your culture, and your culture is one that is in harmony with this country. Those of you that I know, you all speak German beautifully, and so forth. But, to develop a dynamic culture that's actually in harmony with this culture, that's not going to be easy to do. It's very difficult to make the changes. And you don't want to make mistakes, you want to do it right. But we have to understand that even when we're working with a culture that is not healthy, that you have to be wise in how you do that. It's very difficult to do. And I want to end here, with a statement about identity religion. And I think you know what I'm talking about. And identity religion is a term that we use today for people who use their religious identity. They can be Muslims, they can be Christians, they can be Jews, they can be Hindus. They're usually extreme, and they use their religious identity to empower themselves against the other. So always in religion of personal identity, the other is demonized. And we have in the Muslim world today ideologies, you know about those or some of them, and this is what they do. They demonize all others, Muslims, Christians, Jews, everyone who is other than them, and this is a psychological or social psychological problem that we find very common in modernity. We find it among Christians and Jews and Muslims and Hindus and others. And the important thing is that Islam never was an identity religion. That doesn't mean that it doesn't give you an identity, yes. But this is not the only thing that it's for. And no religious tradition has any meaning if it makes you arrogant and proud and haughty. So this cultural aspect of Islam, this is also part of it, that we don't want identity religion. In my article, Islam and the Cultural Imperative, I talk a little bit about being culturally predatory, and I'll end with this. I hope I give you enough time to speak. But, in the history of Spain, you have the phenomenon of the hidalgo. And if you want to read about that, there is a great Mexican historian of Spain, Americo Castro. He's a great historian. And you can read what he writes about the hidalgo. The hidalgo was identity religion. And the hidalgo is Don Quixote, which is one of the greatest books ever written. Is about what? Don Quixote, el hidalgo de la Mancha. Don Quixote, the hidalgo of La Mancha. And this book is an incredible critique of the hidalgo mentality. And, it's one of the greatest books ever written. I believe that it's a book about religious fanaticism. And the message of the book is that religious fanaticism is insane. And of course, if you've read the book, you know that at the end of his life, Don Quixote becomes sane. And all of his friends become insane. They all become like he was. But the hidalgo mentality we don't want. And the hidalgo mentality was genocidal. And all of these ideas that demonize the other, they are potentially genocidal. And in the hidalgo mentality, I don't have to be anything. The hidalgo is hijo de algo. He is the son of something, meaning he is the son of his military actions. That's what it came from. So he's lower nobility. The hidalgos are not born into aristocracy. They earn lower nobility because they're valiant in war. He is hijo de algo. He did something. He did many things. And so the king will raise him up and make him lower aristocracy. But the hidalgo, their mentality, and I'm not making this up, please read Americo Castro. He's really good in this. That the hidalgo, his worth is that he's not you. And that he's not a Jew. And he's not a Muslim. And of course he's good in war, yes. He's good at things like that. But he doesn't have to be anything. Just not to be you. And this is what we don't want to be. And we have a lot of hidalgos among us today. And there are a lot of hidalgos in the alt-right. And there are a lot of hidalgos in other types